Nurture and support. Nurture and support. This is a podcast theme song. And it's really short.
Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone, I'm Mel, and this is Nurture and Support. You can find me occasionally on Twitter at @karmic9.
And hi, everybody. I'm Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter, slightly more frequently than Mel. I guess maybe more than slightly more frequently than Mel. And occasionally Instagram and Facebook to wish you a happy birthday if you happen to be connected to me. That's pretty much all I do on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't do anything on Facebook. And Instagram only shows me stuff that happened 3 weeks ago. So, I don't know. Every time I get on, all it shows me is stuff from 3 weeks ago. So that's not keeping me up to date on everyone's Instagramming. So I've pretty much stopped looking at Instagram very much. So it's probably more than 3 weeks ago now.
I guess
anyway.
the one thing in fairness to Facebook, it is the home of Harbor Day, and so the Harbor Day webpage is there. So that is one reason to go to Facebook. So
it is, and I think I've been getting more Facebook notifications that it seems like Harbor Day's been being pretty active lately.
It's picked up. There's been a couple good ads. Some people that are not supportive and very passive-aggressive, exactly what we look for in Harbor Day. They're doing a great job. So
yeah. So all of you out there, if you have not joined the Harbor Day Facebook group, go over there and ask for an invite and join the passive-aggressive fun.
Indeed.
Yes. So moving right along to recommendations. Oddly enough, my recommendation is not passive-aggressive. I have passive-aggressive tendencies, just like everyone, but this one is not. My recommendation today is a book series that I read recently that is really quite charming. I'm not going to say it's out there, screaming 5 stars, but it is a charming little series that I really enjoyed. And for all of you who like to keep up on reading the books before the movie comes out, this book series was recently, earlier in the year, picked up by Disney to be made into a movie, so that will be interesting to see what they do with it. The book series is called The Paper Magician Trilogy by Charlie N. Holmberg, and that's Holmberg. The first book in the series is called The Paper Magician. The second book is The Glass Magician. And then the third book is The Master Magician. And the main character of all 3 of these books is a young woman named, I believe it's Ceony Twill. I've before said that I don't pronounce things very well, especially when I read them. So her first name is spelled Ceony. And if anybody knows how to pronounce that better than I just did, please let me know, because I would love to know how to pronounce it. Anyway, she is a young woman who has recently graduated from the Tagus Prath School for the Magically Inclined. And she is now ready to be apprenticed to a more advanced magician to learn her craft. This series is set in, I don't know the year, but around Victorian era London, obviously an alternate world, because we have magic. And how the magic works in this world is a magician bonds to a man-made substance, and then they have the ability to magically manipulate this substance. So we're talking about, in her case, paper, smelted metals. That's what smelters, the magicians are. Rubber, I believe some sort of plastics, and glass. Those are the main things. They're man-made. So no one is a magician of, say, rock or dirt, because those are made by nature, not by man. So you don't get a lot of background on how this magical system came about, or really how it was discovered. But you always have a bad guy. In every little world, there's always a bad guy, especially in Victorian London. So who would be the bad guy who would want to beat up on some poor girl who is a paper magician, who is really cool? It's kind of like origami. Just imagine all those cool origami creatures that you can make. being animated and able to run around or fly if they're birds or things like that. It's really pretty cool.
I bet I know the villain.
What?
It's Dr. Steambook Epogreer.
You know, everybody knows I love steampunk. You do get a little bit of a steampunk vibe in this. I think mainly for me just because of the setting that it's in. I associate Victorian era London with every steampunk thing ever, even though there's Old West steampunk, all that kind of stuff. So I did get a bit of a steampunk vibe off of this book, but it's not specific sort of steampunkery going on. The bad guys are what are called Excisionists. You can hear that word and basically just think evil necromancer. What their power is, because remember, you bond to a particular substance, and that's the only substance that you can perform magic with. So Excisionists bond to flesh. They bond to people because people are man-made. They came from other people. So that's how they justify being able to have power over flesh and guts and blood and all sorts of stuff. So you've got some really dirty, ugly, horrible necromancer type people running around in this world. And then you've got little Ceony Twill, who is a little apprentice who was very angry at being forced to go into paper magic. She did not want to do paper. She wanted to do metal. She had all sorts of hopes and dreams, and she was a very smart girl. She got a scholarship to go to school, finished school in a year, and it usually takes everybody 2 years. So she's very intelligent, and she was very angry at having to do this. But she shortly came through the power of her teacher, Mr. Emery Thane. She came to very much enjoy paper and saw the inherent beauty in paper magic. But little does she know something happens. And I'll go ahead and give it away because if you look at the description of the book, they totally give away what happens. An excisionist comes in and yanks his heart out one day at dinner, and she runs off being a barely beginning trained apprentice paper magician. She runs off to get his heart back from the nasty, heartless bitch that took it, who happened to be Mr. Thane's ex-wife. which I thought was a nice little twist, because you may have gathered already that there's a little bit of romance going on in this series. But I will assure you all, it's not excessive, because I've also previously told you I'm not into the excessive romance angle of a lot of what would be considered young adult type books. It's all very chaste and all, because it's Victorian era London.
She didn't take half of his heart prior to the divorce, and then it was all there, and then she took it. Okay.
She left him his heart. It was broken and scarred and ugly, but she left it in his chest. But when she decided she was really going to leave, she came back and took the whole thing with her. So it's an entertaining story, and I have to say I really enjoyed the whole series. That what I've just told you is basically the gist of the first book, and most of the book is Ceony's adventure trying to save her teacher. So after that, I'm not going to tell you what happens, and don't look at the descriptions. If you enjoy the first book and you want to read the rest of them, don't look at the descriptions, because they always give important plot points away. But it's an enjoyable series, and I really think that this could make a really entertaining movie. So I hope that Disney goes ahead with it. I haven't heard anything since earlier in the year, and I did a quick search on it, and I didn't see any news since the end of March. So I hope it goes ahead and goes through, because it's really, I think it could do well. There's not a whole, I think they could pretty much put the whole story of what's going on in the books in the movie. Unlike a lot of like Harry Potter, they have to cut out a whole lot of information from Harry Potter to make it into a good movie and to condense it down. This, I think you can pretty much get the whole thing in there. And there's a lot of action, a lot of Miss Twill running around, working paper magic all over the place, and Origami's making a comeback with a whole lot of people. So I would love to see cute little she has a little paper dog that runs around, and hey, you don't have to feed paper dogs or clean up after them, so that's good. But
You can roll it up and hit it with itself if it misbehaves, I guess.
right, right. So it's really entertaining. I really found this series. I keep saying charming, but it really there's no better word for it. So it was a quick easy read for me. I read the whole series in 3.5 days. So I basically read a book a day. So they're not huge tomes to get through, and they're really enjoyable, and they're very fast paced. And I think a lot of people will like them, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about what Disney's going to do with the movie. I hope they just don't screw it up, because it is a fun story.
Do you think it would? Either do you know what they're going to do, or do you have a preference on which way they go? Whether they would do it live action, a la a Harry Potter, or more animated, like Princess and the Frog? I don't know.
I've assumed it was going to be live action, but I don't specifically know that for certain. I made an assumption that it would be live action. Someone, I don't remember who, because I'm so bad about movies and everything. Somebody associated with the Hunger Games is actually supposed to be involved in it when they announced it back in the end of March. So I'm hoping live action, but it could do well animated as well.
You think like a Big Hero 6? That's probably a better example to kind of,
Yeah, I mean, I really think it would do well in that, and it would be easier probably than trying to do some of the live action stuff. But it's got a good environment going on. It's alternate history, so it's not quite right on with Victorian era London. There's changes to the society because, of course, there are magicians, and women are treated a little better, especially women magicians, than the actual our time frames Victorian London. So but yeah, I think it would do great as a animated or live action. I just assumed it was going to be live action, but it might even do better actually. I have a concern about the romance aspect of it in live action on who they cast, so it might actually do better animated.
Yeah, there's a little more play in the animated world.
Yeah, so yeah. Okay. I have problems sometimes with YA type books and who they cast as being too old for a role in the live action movie. So animated might be the better course in my opinion. But anyway, I think it could be enjoyable either way. And I really found the Paper Magician trilogy by Charlie Holmberg to be really pretty entertaining. And if you're looking for a lighthearted, fast-paced read, which take lighthearted into consideration because, like I said, Necromancers. I wouldn't be letting little kids maybe read this because it's got a lot of blood and guts in it because Necromancers. But I enjoyed it.
So this is helpful because I think you got the title for this week's episode, which is Because Necromancers. It seems like a good title. One super serious question. I assume magicians bonded to scissors always are able to beat magicians bonded to paper. Is that correct?
You'd think so, but paper turns out to be pretty powerful.
Oh.
They use enchanted scissors in paper magic, so I guess they all have to agree to get along, or somebody has to send the necromancers after them. So, yeah.
Cool. That sounds good, and I guess this would be a good one to read in advance before something comes out, but it sounds like we got a little time.
Probably. Yeah, I haven't heard anything, so I would imagine if they were even remote, if they'd even gotten to a casting stage. That's why, it's been since the beginning of the year. We haven't even heard anything about casting that I've seen come across, so possibly it's going to be a while if it ever gets made, but they bought the rights to it and went so far as to get some people attached to making it, so I think it could do well.
Great. Sounds good. So I'll go ahead and move to my recommendation. And if Mel's recommendation was charming, mine at least rhymes with that because it's alarming. My recommendation is a little disturbing too, but I think it's worth your time. And it's pretty fun. So it's Shock Upon Shock. So Mel's doing a book. I'm doing a documentary. This stuff never happens on Nurture and Support, but it does this week. So my recommendation, it's an Australian documentary, and it's called Life on Us. And it's the story of all the microbes and all the bacteria and all the living. They talk about it being kind of a microscopic safari over your body, where they talk about everything that lives on you. And oh my God, there is a lot of stuff that lives on us. It's totally, totally creepy. There are bugs on our eyelashes that crawl down in the ducts of our eyelashes where there's a little moisture and hang out there until nighttime. When they come out and have sex on your face, you have bugs having sex on your face every night. So,
Yay.
so you got that going for you. That's all of us. So, it's a fascinating documentary. So I do not recommend watching it during mealtime because there's many unpleasantries to it. It's all done it's not done for shock value in any of it, but it's kind of a very straightforward discussion of it. I'm going to take a hunch a little bit that just when you start to think about broadcast television on the United States versus England, there's a little greater latitude on showing nudity on English television than American television. That has clearly carried forward to the Australian television type of thing. So there will be nudity in this. It's not done provocatively, but they're talking about the body, and they're talking about all parts of the body, and they talk
They're
about
showing you where the gross things hang out.
Showing is like this. Apparently, so if you were to guess, the two like Las Vegases of your body for microbes, place that all the microbes want to go to and hang out and have a good time, where would you place those? There's two.
Las Vegas.
The Las Vegas of your body.
Well, I hate to say it, but the rectum's got a lot of stuff around there. So I would say that. And we got a lot of bad stuff going on in the mouth.
So here's a sentence I never really thought I'd say. So this documentary is actually light on rectums. So there's
really light on rectums.
There is. It's a little poop. It's a little poop heavy. There's a big section at the end that I was like, oh, I'm learning stuff, but I'm not enjoying myself right now. Because apparently there's a lot of valuable organisms in your feces, in poop.
Yes, there is.
And some people have poop transplants.
They do.
And so they kind of cover that. And then someone's
I know someone that's had a poop transplant.
And they talk about they're kind of trying to do a poop genome, if you will, of all the different, because it's different. But it's really, really fascinating because it is very symbiotic in terms of, we tend to think bacteria are bad, mites are bad, and all that. But we wouldn't be alive without them. As we get our first dosage as we kind of head out of mom, and we get kind of our first batch there, and they continue to develop. I don't know how they come up with this calculation. It clearly can't be weight. I'm going to assume it's maybe surface area, but they say basically you are 10% you and 90% this other stuff. And
awesome.
So I don't know exactly how that calculation came about it, but it is profound in terms of the things. But the Las Vegases of your body actually are your belly button and your armpits. So these are two good areas. And it's not and they were talking about the armpit's so weird. There's like hair there, and it's just what is going on kind of with all those types of things. The smell that is associated with the armpit actually doesn't come from the bacteria. It comes from things your body's producing and some of the byproducts of them being there. But it's of major importance in kind of whole interactions of organisms for humans, and it actually comes into, to a degree, sexual attraction. And as they were talking about how that kind of works out, they were talking about, and here you go. So for animals like horses and dogs, their Las Vegas is their rectum. So when you got dogs sniffing, that's because they're kind of trying to size things up. And so as we tended to be more upright, that would have been a little more uncomfortable for us to have to bend over all the time and do it. So they moved up the kind of helper there to something a little closer to your nose. So that was pretty interesting.
It's not an erogenous zone. What would be the word for it?
It's your beacon, I guess, to a degree. It kind of says, but it's just they kind of cover, from top to bottom, no pun intended, all sorts of things kind of going on, whether it's stuff in your hair, stuff in your eyelashes, what goes on your skin, in your belly button, all these types of things. And they kind of go through a number of viruses. There's good viruses and bad viruses, and the key is to kind of have the right balance of things. And a lot of times when things start to go really bad, these can be an imbalance within this kind of ecosystem of all the little guys is what's really causing it. To the extent that they have one that they call, the common name is the zombie virus for it. And it's a very interesting one where it starts to create irrational behavior if you get way out of balance with it. But it's super interesting because at least one strain of it can only reproduce within the digestive tract of a cat. And so what happens is these organisms who happen to begin their life, let's say in a rat, they change the way the rat's brains work, where a typical rat brain goes, I smell a cat, I'm getting out of here. It's a pretty natural reaction for a rodent is, when I smell one of those, I'm going the other way. Well, this thing starts to change the chemistry and thinking enough it goes, I find that very attractive. I think I'll go investigate more, because its objective is, I need to get into that digestive system because that's the only place I can reproduce.
Right.
So just really kind of cool stuff like that. And so it's just, like I said, there's moments where it's a little uncomfortable and you start to go, really? All this is going on? There's some pretty cool high-res shots of some of our friends who are living with us, many of which are super creepy looking, very science fiction looking. But they kind of cover the whole gamut of it. It's done well. It's obviously a slightly more liberal approach and interesting approach, in just because they'll cut to scientists talking about it, some actual kind of imagery of it, some animations of the small things, and then they'll also have kind of like a family that's running the course of this, as they're talking about the armpits, and they show a teenager showering and talking about all of that and all that. But they showed the dad sitting on a toilet twice. I thought the first one was enough. I was like, I don't really need to see dad on a toilet. But the second one, they had kind of the toilet cam from coming shooting up from one. I was like, I really don't need this angle. I don't know if this is helping me, but it's good stuff. It's an hour and 12 minutes. It is on Amazon Prime, which is an excellent way for you to get it. But what I found as I was doing some searches to get ready to talk about it today, it appears, at least for right now, if you search on Life on Us on YouTube, you can get this whole documentary for free on YouTube as well. So Amazon Prime, if you've got that. If not, at YouTube, you'll be able to check it out there. It's super interesting, not always comfortable, but you learn a lot of stuff. So I really enjoyed, might be too strong of a word, but I was fascinated by it, so it was really good.
And one of those things you can't look away from when you figure out what's going on. So, yeah, there's a book that came out recently. That's what I was trying to look up and see what it was. Speaking of your things altering the rats of brains, there's a book that came out by Kathleen McAuliffe that's called This Is Your Brain on Parasites. And it's how tiny creatures manipulate our behavior and shape society. So I've had that in my list to read. It's one of my upcoming books. So this was entertaining. So I can watch a documentary and get prepped for reading this book. So
yeah, it'll give you a really good base. It covers a lot of things, so it's worth it.
Yeah, I tend to avoid a lot of the human-based stuff because I know more about the animal. And I know how bad it is in animals. I know we're just full of nasty stuff, but oh well.
Yeah, there was one section on this where they were discussing pubic hair and human pubic hair and other pubic hair of apes, and if not, why is, these types of things. And that part I was like, move along. I don't care. I don't want to know. Yeah,
well, we wouldn't survive without all of these little bugs doing their part. We are our own ecosystem, so we support all of these little critters. It's just like when you watch nature documentaries and you've got the big sea creatures, whether it's whales or sharks or whatever, and then you have the smaller ones that are attached to them. Well, they're helping. It's all symbiotic, so we just don't like to think about it.
Yeah, I kind of like him to cut out the whole sex on my face thing. If I could write a letter.
But you have to wonder, how do they replenish themselves?
Yeah.
He tell you have to go rub your eyes up on some stranger to get some new mites in to colonize your eyelashes. So
Yeah, that'd be a problem.
yeah, I don't like touching strangers. So my parasites better be able to reproduce themselves. Oh, well, that's cool. And it was Life on Us on
Life
Amazon Prime.
on Us. Yep.
Cool. I have to go add that to my expanding watch list on Amazon Prime. They've been adding lots of bad science fiction movies, so I will add some documentaries to my list. So shockingly enough, if all of the bugs living on us wasn't bad enough for you, I'm going to shock you all with a social media recommendation. This week, I want y'all to go check out MTV's YouTube channel. It's at MTV. One, I'm going to tell you one thing because I've told y'all before I love Teen Wolf. Kelly won't go watch Teen Wolf, but it's the last season, y'all, and they just put up the first 10 minutes or so of the premiere episode. This starts in November. But anyway, while I was watching that, it came to my attention that they have started putting up full episodes of some MTV classic shows, and one of them is Daria. And I love Daria. Daria is like my spirit animal. So I think there are 3 episodes of Daria up on MTV's YouTube channel. So go check that out and subscribe so you can watch episodes of Daria as they get up there. I think there was also a Beavis and Butthead, a couple other things, but Daria is what I was there for. So check it out.
Boy, I would not have predicted an MTV YouTube channel recommendation from you. So,
I know.
Yeah, very cool. Excellent. I have one as well. It's a Twitter recommendation. It's at Italian Oranges is the Twitter handle. And this is an individual. Her name is Haley. She's very good at hashtag games. I have ended up kind of crossing paths with her primarily on Z Nation viewing. So she's cranking out some really good tweets during Z Nation. And so we've had a little bit of back and forth there. And she's very, very clever, very funny on both the hashtag games and the Z Nation stuff. So following her for that is enough. But she's kind of awesome on multiple levels. She's got a niece, Lily, who's facing some pretty significant health issues. And so she's kind of taken it upon herself to kind of reach out and see if she can get some people to give some words of encouragement to her. And she was able to connect through David Latt, who many of us have connected with on Twitter, and through David, nearly the entire cast of Z Nation put together a video response to Lily, just kind of wishing her well.
Aww.
And it was this really nice piece, very heartfelt, very sincere, super cool, and it had just all the main folks. And it was just fantastic that they put in the effort to do that and took the time. And while she was cultivating that, she was also working on Chris Evans to say, hey, boy, she'd really like a shout out from you. And he was less responsive, but Haley stayed on him, not in a mean way, but very persistent about saying, hey, maybe this would do somebody some pretty good. What do you think about it? And so we learned some things. So eventually, Chris Evans did respond, and he put together a very nice video. And I think I'll send Mel a link for it to put in the blog post so that you can see it. I've always enjoyed him in the Captain America stuff. I like him a whole lot more after watching this video because he just seems like a very decent human being. And it was just kind of interesting because he first acknowledged Haley's persistence and said, so if you've got somebody out there who's doing a good job, but he apparently doesn't watch social media because people are pretty mean, so I get that. So he's not a regular on it, but they eventually brought this to his attention, and he did it very nice, and it was just kind of cool to hear him talk, just to be as sincere as he was in offering well wishes and support, but the two kind of going like, and I like to make, I try and make good movies for you. Some of them aren't so good, but I try, and it was just all very genuine and sincere. He's just like sitting in his kitchen. His dog comes by at one point in time. It's all very, very cool. So it was just, since Twitter and before the show started, Mel and I were chatting a little bit. And these days, there's a lot on Twitter you can step across. that's not particularly enjoyable or uplifting or give you any hope in life. But then you can come across this. And so every once in a while there's these little beams of sunshine. And this was pretty cool to see on the Z Nation crew, what Chris Evans did, and what Haley did to kind of make it happen. So
Yeah, I'm
definitely
sad I missed that.
I'll shoot you. I'll get you the links. But it's cool, especially like I said, I really enjoyed the Chris Evans one. So again, the Z Nation one, those folks were very, very cool. It was everybody. So they're both great. Maybe we'll put them both in the blog post.
Yeah, since I haven't been on Twitter, I've missed all the premieres of all the new shows, and I'm behind on Z Nation again after catching up. So I have to get online and catch up on Z Nation.
Catch up. Maybe we can do a show sometime where we just Z Nation's not Breaking Bad, but at the same point in time, maybe we can do a show to kind of talk, because there's been some interesting. I'm looking forward once you catch up.
I love Z Nation. Roberta's like, I'm gonna be her when I grow up.
She continues to get continues to get more and more awesome in it. But it's interesting to see the turn that's going on, because it's, each episode's a lot. It's a lot more serious and action. There's still points of humor in it. But if you go back, if you remember the way this thing started, it was, you got the Liberty Bell taking zombies out, and a lot of Amish zombies. Yeah, and there's still moments of that. There was no minor spoiler for you when you catch up. At some point during the first several episodes, you'll get to see a gigantic zombie ball. so that'll be. So they still have a few things here and there.
Yeah.
But. It's still good. I enjoy it, but they have a little bit of that true hardcore kind of crazy Sharknado-esque stuff. You have to be dialing back a little bit, but it's still a great cast. It's great writing. It's super fun. So maybe we'll talk more about that sometime.
Yeah, I love Z Nation. So, all right. Well, I think that wraps us up, unless we have some words of encouragement regarding parasites and whatnot for Matt.
Yeah, boy, there'd be a lot of things I could say right now to introduce Matt. But I think for this week, I'll just say, here's our good friend Matt, who will tell you all the many ways that you can connect with us. And we sure hope you do. And if you're listening, we'd like to thank you for that. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Matt.
You can contact us on our website, nurtureandsupport.net, or email us at nurtandsupp@gmail.com. That's NURTANDSUPP@gmail.com, or tweet us at nurtandsupp on Twitter.
Nurturing and support.